Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, and our special guest today, Dr. Jeff Gingerich, the president of none other than St. Bonaventure University. We're very, very happy to have Dr. Gingerich with us today. I don't know if you can see it from there, but I'm pumped up with my Bonas gear on. We're ready to go. We'll start out with a very, very little bit of Go Bonas, and welcome, Dr. Gingerich, to In the Zone. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We've been trying to get on here make this happen for a while, so I'm glad
we have, and I thank you for accommodating us and making time out of your schedule, because I do know that a president's schedule is very tight, especially at the opening of the year. So we do appreciate that. Just a little bit of an introduction. Dr. Gingerich came to us from Scranton University, which is a Division III school in Pennsylvania, and jumped into the presidency at St. Bonaventure. That's where I'd like to start. I'd like to talk about that transition for you professionally. Obviously, a new challenge and a big step up, but also got to be exciting and some really great things on the horizon for you, I believe. So please.
Yeah, no, this has been, it was a big move for me. I had only been at the University of Scranton for 4 years, and actually a little over 3 years when I first took the position. And I loved the University of Scranton is a great place. A lot of similarities with Bonaventure, a small tight-knit community, a little bit bigger university, a great D3 athletics tradition. And just a great Jesuit education tradition overall. I was there during COVID, during all those challenging times, and so we really worked through a lot together, and it's a wonderful school. Interestingly enough, and sadly in some ways, we lost our president. Our president passed away about the same time that Bonaventure's President Dr. Dennis DePero passed away.
Wow.
And so I had a sense of kind of what the mourning or the loss of a leader, of a beloved leader to a community is like when I came here. But I was just really excited about coming to St. Bonaventure. I knew mostly about the big basketball tradition, but from the moment I had my first Zoom interview, I just knew this was the place to be. These are the kind of people I want to work with, and this is the Franciscan tradition has just welcomed me in every way, and I've loved it.
Well, we're lucky to have you, and I would just urge everybody in the Bona community to do everything you can to hold on to Dr. Gingerich, because he gets it. He gets it. And we're going to go out right off the first bat. We've had Woj, Mark Schmidt, we've had Chris LaPlaca, we've had a bunch of Bona guests on. I asked the same question of all of them. What is Bona territory?
I love that phrase, because a lot of times we talk about Bona community and the Bona campus and everything, but it really is this whole region, and it's our territory. And when you're coming in on I-86 from the west, you see the billboard there with our students at a game, and we kind of proudly proclaim, you are now entering Bona territory. For me, it's pride. It's a source of pride, not only for the university, but for the whole community and the whole region around here. And I can't say how much I appreciate the community here who really loves this school in so many ways. And I tell you, Rich, what I love the most, and what really for me Bona's territory is about this kind of claiming that we're one of the smallest schools in Division I, right? One of the smallest budgets, and yet we do really big things. And so we've claimed this territory as that kind of David and Goliath kind of mentality that helps us to be who we are, as small as we are, and still just do incredible big things. And so it's a big source of pride, Bona territory.
It really is. And I could imagine when you sat in Riley Center for your first basketball game, once you get in there, you really get a tremendous understanding of the passion that not only our students possess for the St. Bonaventure basketball program and community, but also the people of the Olean and Allegheny community. Even when I was a student there were people that never ever missed a game. They were there to support through thick and thin. And I think that's Bonnet territory too. You know, we don't always come up on the upside, but we never ever don't show up, and we don't ever have great pride in what we do. I think that separates us a little bit. I wanted to talk right off the get-go because in our business, I've been a coach for over 40 years now, and Coach Schmidt, in our business, we would say if you got a really great recruit, you would say, wow, that's a great get for them. You know? And so I don't know that you can get a bigger recruit than the one you landed when you brought Woj home. Okay, so there's so many layers to that I want our listeners to understand. We do talk about the special nature of St. Bonaventure, but a person who's at the height of his career with the NBA and turns around and says, I want to go home. I want to be a part of this rebuilding the basketball program to be an NIL powerhouse and to really help us compete. And that says something really, really powerful about the university. Why don't you, because you brought him. It's your get. So let's talk about Woj.
You're right. There is no bigger get than Woj here, and I give a lot of credit to our athletic director, Bob Beretta, who had been talking, and we've known Woj for a long time, and he's always been just a great friend to the university, and but Bob came to me one day and said, I don't know if you're interested in this, and I don't know if this is just kind of a thought, and one of the things about Woj is he's such a humble guy. Because Bob even said, Woj doesn't even know if you'd want this, but what would you think about Woj retiring from ESPN and coming to be our general manager? And I know I sat there for about 5 seconds, just kind of probably with my mouth open, Rich, kind of like, wow, that would be phenomenal. And then from then on, I had a chance to sit and talk with Woj, and it was very clear this is what he wanted to do. And when he said that he's coming, to his second dream job, he really meant it. That wasn't just he loves this place in a way that so many other alums love this place and is committed to it. And we've seen it since then too. I mean, just so everyone knows, this isn't a retirement gig for Woj. He is constantly working. He's constantly on the phone still, and I think we certainly got a lot of free publicity. It was all over ESPN. As his colleagues talked about how great he is those days. But even more importantly, to your point, Rich, I think it really was an opportunity for us to express to the country and to the world kind of this is what St. Bonaventure is all about. And so as he articulated kind of his love for this place and why he wants to come here from ESPN, it really was a great articulation of who we are and why our alums and our students, love this place so much. He's made an impact. I mean, you've seen it. This year's recruiting class, we got some great talent coming in, some great gets. We'll talk later, I'm sure, about money and how things play in here. But players want to come to a place that has a coach like Mark Schmidt and a general manager like Woj that's going to help them kind of move on with their careers and do great things and have the networks. And so it's been just a huge advantage for us.
That's so well articulated. Thank you. You mentioned Woj's humility, and that's such a big piece of who he is, But I do, every once in a while, I have heard some of the other Jandoli crew that are around him remind him that there is one Hellinger Award winner in that household, and it's not Woj. And it's not Woj. So I wanted to just, because his wife is an amazing Bonner person as well, too. But I did have the opportunity to meet your wife, Betsy, at Reunion, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that because so often our spouses are the absolute shoulder-to-shoulder people right there with us. And when I met your wife, Betsy, I really was truly impressed and really got a great sense that you and her are the perfect 1-2 punch that we need there. So let's just talk about family a little bit, and let's give a shout out.
That's for sure, Rich. I appreciate you saying that. One thing I really appreciated, and we both appreciated about Bonaventure, is they've treated us as a team coming in into the university because, well, first of all, Betsy's just a lot smarter than I am, and so that's recognized. And she's been working in higher ed for over 22 years. We met at a university, and so just is really knowledgeable about everything. And she actually quit her full-time job so that she could dive into St. Bonaventure when she came here. And she's helped lead fundraising efforts for the warming house here at St. Bonaventure. She volunteers there all the time. She's helped lead fundraising efforts for the Sister Margaret Carney endowment that we just did. She's helped our School of Health Professions lead their and it's just a great person to have by my side, and I know I couldn't do it without her, and I'm glad that Bonaventure appreciates that, and I appreciate you saying something.
And I
about
love
that.
the effort for Sister Margaret because she was special to us as well. She really did a great job for us. We talked a little bit about Bob Beretta, but that that gentleman is a social media maven. He is able to put the word out about our sports in a way that I think this is a little bit unique, and I really, really love it because basketball's been, so important to St. Bonaventure for so long. But the other sports there are just amazing as well, too, and they give such great effort and represent the school in such a great way. I love that Bob is really, really adept at putting that message out there as well. Talk about Bob Beretta and what he's meant to the university as well.
Yeah, another great get, Rich. Like he, when our athletic director position opened up, I had many calls from alumni who called to say, "Hey, I don't know if you know Bob Beretta, but you should be thinking about him. He's at Lemoyne right now." And one of the first ones I have to say was Woj calling me saying, "Hey, this you might have your guy right down the road." And so we did a national search, and we had some really good talent that we were looking at. But Bob just rose above everyone else, just in terms of his time at West Point, at Lemoyne. The kind of things that he'd done were the kind of things that we were talking a lot about here at St. Bonaventure. And there's a lot of value in having, a former baseball player for St. Bonaventure here. Like, he gets that Bona territory pride. He gets the everything that we're trying to do here, even amidst a big Division I kind of chaos sometimes. And he's innovative. He's helping us to start things. And so a lot of our major strategic projects right now are not things that just benefit the basketball teams, but they benefit all of our student athletes. And for a school like us, that's just vitally important that we're supporting all those student athletes from an enrollment perspective, but also just from a student support perspective. And so he's wonderful. I do have one complaint. Since he worked at West Point so long, when he walked in the door, he gave me his preparatory file, and it was literally this big. And I said, "Bob, when am I going to read all of this?" But so he writes these long reports. But he's a great guy, and he's just done a wonderful job since he's come here.
He was assistant athletic director at Army when I was at Colgate. So we were in the same league together, and I got to know him then. But one of the things I think that's really, really special about Bob is that the landscape is changing. The landscape is changing in basketball, in other sports as well, too. And Bob's ready to change. He's ready to go. He's a change agent, and I like that and respect that about him. But again, his social media presence has been something that's been very, very prolific, and I think gives a very, very nice nod to some of our other sports where the light isn't always there. So I think that's special. We said we were going to talk about money, so might as well jump into it. Obviously, Woj. Well, let's break this down into two pieces. A, because I love the international piece. I love it. Now Bonas is known in Russia. Now Bonas is known in Italy. Now Bonas has a face all over the world, thanks to Woj, but also some of the changes that are happening. This is something that benefits us, and I love it. So let's just talk about the international moves that we've made in the off season here, and then we'll talk about money.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's going to be a real difference maker for us this year as we look to the new season. Bringing in these international players, and Woj was really intentional about reaching out, developing relationships. One of the things that he does very well, and that Schmidt has always done a great job of, is finding the right fit for our university as well. Not just finding good talent, but finding fit, and that can be even more difficult overseas. But I know just meeting some of the players already, meeting some of their families, you can tell that this is the place for them. There's going to be a good fit here, and they're not just coming over to play basketball. And so that's huge for us, and it's really going to expand our talent, but our talent pool on the team this year. But I think in future recruiting years, it's going to make a big difference. And it also just, as you said, Rich, it helps us to be known around the world in ways that we weren't before.
The reason I love it so much is because our message is universal. Tom McElroy really hit on it when I said, what makes our university so special, Tom? And he had said it's the caring piece. And I really felt that as a student there. I really felt cared for. And I think that's something that's going to resonate all over the world. Our message, the Franciscan message, is something that resonates all over the place. And I think Woj hit on that. And I think this type of player in Mark Schmidt's system is going to be very, very beneficial. There's a lot of shooting that's been added, and that's the name of the game these days. But also, there's a lot of good skill set out there that I've seen, and I'm really very excited about the upcoming season. Let's
Yeah, well, going back to Bob Beretta, I actually think that caring piece is really important in the Franciscan tradition, and so that's one thing that we find ourselves in right now is we need to be innovative, and we need to kind of keep moving forward and keeping up with everything in higher ed and the NCAA, while at the same time holding on to the core of our Franciscan tradition and that tradition of caring and being a welcome hospital place. And Bob gets that. Coach Schmidt has always gotten that. Woj gets that, and I think that's vital that all of our faculty and staff continue to hold on to that.
The one thing that you have surrounding you have a core of people that are Bonas people now, and they have an understanding of the university, but also would never ever take action that would bring harm to the university, and that's very, very special to me. But let's get into the money piece a little bit, because Pete and I throw up our pencils here all the time. We're shaking our heads at portal, NIL, the craziness. And if we just backed up a little bit, we would talk about when I happened to be in the Madison Square Garden, proudly watching our St. Bonaventure team represent in the NIT in the finals against a very good Xavier team. And the excitement there was that we had all 5 of our players returning. And this was Coach Schmidt's, really worked this group, and it was Lofton and Osan, and they were just very, very good Bonas players, throughout. But then came the NIL, and Mark Schmidt was forced to have his entire roster basically vacated and then go scrambling to find other players. And it's basically a miracle to me that he's been able to do as much as he's been able to do, given the fact that a lot of the winds are blowing in St. Bona's face right now. A lot of the winds are coming against us right now. We don't mind it. We don't mind it. We'll fight through it, but it's been difficult. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the challenges as a president who's now involved in this very heavily? What's going on?
Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy transition for me. This is my first Division I school, and I grew up. I went to and played at Division III schools, taught it and administrated at Division III schools, and I was at that NIT game against Xavier. It was before I started, but we came in to watch the game, and I was very excited about those 5 coming back again the next year on my first year here, and then NIL hit, and It's been a lot of confusion and challenges since that point, and a lot of changes, and there's just a lot of unpredictability right now, each year, and what's going to happen. It puts a school like St. Bonaventure, who has always, never had kind of as much resources as others in Division 1 or in the A10, to be able to put towards athletics, but it makes it even more of a challenge. But so far, for a number of reasons, we've really been able to kind of keep up, and not only keep up but thrive amidst all this. And I think this year's we're going to see that again. It means that we need to rely on some things besides just money, in the payment to players, that things like school pride, and things like, the support that we give, and Woj plays a big factor in that as well. Coming for a great coach like Coach Schmidt, those we need those kind of things to attract when we may not be able to compensate as much as some of the other big schools are doing. And but it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I have concerns, Rich. I mean, I do think our athletes benefit us so much, and the past, from Sam and Tom Stith to way even back before then, to our current players, we get a lot of recognition from them, and so I'm not against them being rewarded for that, but it does feel like we've lost a little bit of control over kind of the amount of money kind of that's being released out there at this point. And so, but we're going to keep up with it, and our alumni have been incredibly generous in terms of giving towards athletics, and we're going to try to keep that up.
No doubt. I think something that's been very, very obvious and prevalent to me is that now you have to rely on the value of your degree to a certain extent. And I think that's how we've been able to weather this storm as well as we have. Hey, we got a great basketball coach, got a great athletic director, we have an unbelievable fan base, but there are some real challenges that were here that those three things are very, very difficult to overcome when you're in a resource deficit situation. But the value of the St. Bonaventure degree is holding up right now, and I think that's really exciting to me, because I think this was something that caught everybody by surprise. I can't imagine you coming in, sitting in Madison Square Garden, watching that, and then becoming president as NIL is hitting, as all of this is coming on. But, I think that you and your staff, our board of trustees, everybody has leaned in. They've leaned in, and we're not going to step back. We're going to keep leaning in, and I love that. I love that about us. I wanted to take a moment, because this is a big feather in your cap. You mentioned Dennis DePero, who I absolutely loved. And one of the reasons I love Dennis is because I've been in education, higher education, my whole life. And right now I know the constraints that a lot of colleges are under for enrollment. That's a very, very difficult time with that. But the feather that goes in your cap here is we're talking about the largest enrollment class in St. Bonaventure history at a time when that's not easy to do, folks. I really got to be honest with you. All colleges right now are under constraints, but congratulations, President Gingerich. That's news to every one of the alumni's ears, because it means we're vibrant, we're moving forward, and we're rocking and rolling. Talk about that accomplishment, please.
Well, thanks, Rich. I appreciate you bringing this up. Yeah, we're feeling really good right now, and we've got a great admissions team. We've just got a great community that has done a wonderful job of getting the word out about Bonaventure, and we were just able to release last week that this is the largest, most students we've ever had at St. Bonaventure University. We got over 3,000 for the first time. These are significant marks for us, and I give a lot of credit to Dr. DePero, Sister Margaret, everybody kind of who came before us, and our board of trustees who were willing to invest in new programs. One of the real keys here is that we've grown 50% over the last 10 years, and 40% of our current students are in programs that didn't exist 10 years ago. So that means the campus, the faculty was being innovative. They were starting programs. We started new club sports programs. We started new athletic programs. And it's all those kind of things that you have to have in place. Much of that happened before I got here, and then we've just had our nose to the grindstone since I've gotten here to kind of keep that momentum going. So we had four straight years of really strong enrollment at the undergrad level, and we've really been growing our graduate program. So there's a lot. I'm just really proud of the Bonaventure family and all the help we get from our alums like yourself that make all this happen.
Well, we love the place, I tell you, we really do. We've got one of the best basketball coaches in the entire A10. I think we've got one of the best basketball coaches in the entire game. I think Mark Schmidt has been just such a great ambassador for Bonaventure, and his accomplishments, his winning, his credential, it stands on its own. But let's just take a few minutes to talk about Coach, because I love Coach Schmidt and I think he's a great guy, and talk about what he means to not only the Bonaventure campus but also the community at large.
He's a remarkable man. He's a great coach, and I've come to appreciate that even more over the last few years. But he's a remarkable man overall, and just so well regarded among the NCAA, particularly within this region. We actually just a couple of weeks ago he held his annual Coaches versus Cancer golf event, and which he raises a lot of money for cancer research every year, and support for people with cancer. And that's just a piece of, and he's been recognized for that nationally, just kind of a piece of who he is beyond being a basketball coach. But he's one of the smartest basketball coaches that I've seen, and I love the sport. I love the game, and I've watched it for years. And I think he has a complicated offense. He has a complicated coaching system, and that's why it's been even more impressive to see him succeed with players that he doesn't have for 4 years. Because that team, that NIT team, he had been working with them for 4 years. They knew that offense, and this year he's starting over, year after year. And so it's even more impressive that he's been able to translate amidst everything that he does here. And I can't tell you how well regarded he is throughout the A10 and the NCAA.
In our industry as well, too. In our business, the coaching business, he's very, very well thought of and very well regarded in that business as a very good X's and O technician, but also a great recruiter. Because some of the players that they've been able to attract to Bonaventure, I think some of the other people felt like they might have missed, because we did grab some really, really good ones during that time. I think with Coach Schmidt, you're going to have a chance every single night. And when we get a good crowd, I was at the Fordham game last year, and the crowd was a Bona's crowd. The crowd was a Bona's crowd. Fordham has a little bit of work to do under their new coach, and they'll get going. Talk about the Atlantic 10 a little bit, and what's going on there? I mean, there's some teams that have. I was fortunate enough my first recruit at Westfield State was Chris Caputo, who's the head coach at GW right now. And we have a chance to talk, and I know some of the other schools as well. There's some significant disparity in resource there in the A10. I think that's one of the leagues where it might be as most disparate. Because some of the lower level schools are not doing NIL. They're not involved in it right now. The middle, where their players are getting taken and poached, and also now having to go into raise money from track A and B, it's been difficult. But talk a little bit about the A10. Where do you think that's at?
Yeah, I have to say I've been really impressed with the A10 as a conference. I like how we're situated as a mid-major, but and I kind of like the differences in schools within it. But it is as funding and money becomes more important moving through, there are some big differences within there, and so you have some really big, well-resourced schools competing in the same conference with those who are not. And so I'd say this, that the president's and the ADs meet regularly, and we have a lot of conversations about that. How do we stick together and kind of give a common commitment to all our sports, and particularly basketball. The A10 is a basketball-centric conference, and make sure that we stay competitive. But to your point, Rich, it's becoming more and more challenging as the kind of the Power Four conferences really feel like they continue to get more influence, more authority, more power, you might say, over decisions that are being made. It's getting more and more difficult to get those at-large spots in the tournament. And so we have to keep advocating all the time to have representation and to have a voice from the A10 as these decisions are being made in the NCAA, and that's one of our real challenges right now, that we really have to kind of keep bonding together to make sure that voice is there, and it's not just the P4 conferences.
That's such a great way to put it. Dr. Gingerich, thank you so much for being with us today. I really do appreciate you taking your time, because I know how the start of the school year is very, very difficult. But thanks again for joining us. I think you articulated that Bona message perfectly today. We love to talk about Bonas because, A, we're in a high school, but also we're in an area where young people are making their choices about school. And you cannot find a better environment, educational environment on the East Coast than you can at St. Bonaventure, young people. So parents and people alike, we had the president here today to articulate that beautifully, but it's a special place, and I would urge you to investigate it as you decide where your young people are deciding for college. Dr. Gingerich, thank you so much for joining us today. Go Bonas.
Go Bonas. Thanks a lot, Rich, for having me.
Thank you as well. Thank you as well.
All right. Take care.
Pete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great interview.
He's fabulous.
Yep,
He's fabulous, man. He not a lot of college presidents could come in and sit in that chair and give you the wide range of stuff that you just heard from Dr. Gingerich. Really, really has his hand on the pulse of that university in a great way. And I say to my people on the trustees all the time, you better make sure we hold on to him.
Well,
you better make sure we hold on to him.
There was no trepidation into answering questions about all the college sports landscape right now. Kind of like very similar to Director Lenfest last week. They didn't dance around a question. He tackled them head on. Like, he's talking about the issues that a small school has. We've been talking about it for a long time on here.
He was
issues
great.
that the smaller D1 schools are having, and bringing the experience from D3, seeing what that was like. And he had no trepidation talking about any of those types of topics.
He was very comfortable. Very comfortable on a wide range of topics, and I knew that he would be, and that's why I was excited to have him, because I did meet with him, I did meet with his wife, and they are really a dynamic couple, and we're lucky to have him. But also, as we talked about, now Woj and Bob Beretta in the director's seat, these are Bonas people. These are people that are going to do the right thing by Bonas every single day and twice on Sunday. Pete, we're going to shoot into Pete's Corner, right?
Yep, sure,
All
why
right.
not?
Pete sent me a little homework this week, folks. The first question Pete ever sent me, because if he didn't send it to me, we wouldn't have much to talk about.
Correct. I wanted you to do a little diving into this.
And I did.
My question is, you talk about in the basketball side a super conference. There's now talk about a football side super conference as well. And it's mainly to go after the NFL, the exemption that the NFL has hold since 1961 with the football contracts. They want that big money from television football, and they want to go together as a super conference and basically be like NFL AAA.
All right.
That's what it sounds like. That's what they're angling for.
You are 100% correct on this. And this is what I took out of it. So you now have a system in place where, let's call it like it is. You're going to sell some tickets. I don't even know if you get to sell your own hot dogs anymore, right? A lot of that's Marriott, Sodexo, other companies come in and do that. So I don't know who's making a profit off of that. But you get to sell your tickets and you do this other stuff. But let's call it like it is, folks, and let's be honest with our viewers. Your TV revenue is everything right now.
Yep.
And so for them to think that there's going to be ways for them to try and get deeper and deeper and deeper into that pocket so they can get more and more players under contract on the revenue side, because as we said before, Avenue B is under a little scrutiny right now. The money that you can get from a booster, as I've said all the time, where are the name, images, and likenesses? Okay? You have colleges all over the place here, universities all over this area, and they're all Division I, and they're all NIL affiliated. Where are the name, images, and likenesses of all of the players that are being paid at those schools? You don't see it. So that's lane number 2. Now you have Deloitte, the accounting agency, wants to go in, and they've been plucking out a few that I've heard. But, you know, they want to go in and investigate exactly what's being done in order to create that lane 2 money.
Yep.
And so I think it's going to slow some people down, but I don't think it's going to have a significant impact on it. So what they're trying to do, and what your question says that I can carve out of it, is they're trying to create a situation, because now they're getting scrutiny in lane B. They're trying to flood lane A. They're just trying to go to the TV companies and bang, bang, bang. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. If I was them, I'd be a little bit careful, because you are kind of going after the hand that's feeding you.
Right.
So if I was them, I would approach this very delicately over time and maybe try and increase. But they've also, many of those Power 4 conferences have gotten big deals already.
They've got their own deals.
Just got major deals in the millions and billions.
ESPN spins off an SEC network.
Yeah, going back to them now and saying we need more. I don't know, man. I don't know.
What it sounds like is they want to use the same bargaining rules that the NFL did, and say we're going to come as the NCAA and do it, and then have revenue sharing. Where right now individual conferences have gone and done their own thing, and done some revenue sharing inside the conference, but it's not. There's nothing laid out, so the haves get more, and the have-nots still get shut out. And what it sounds like is that the NCAA wants to come in and run as a package deal for NCAA football, and they'll make it fair.
Okay, so
I don't believe that.
Well,
they think they want to do the same thing with college basketball.
Let me.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Let me ask you a question, though, because there was something that popped into my head while we were discussing this. NBA, everybody goes on television. NFL, everybody gets on television. Somewhere, somehow, everybody's on television. Mm-hmm. Are you willing to put LIU on television? Or are you just talking about we need more money so you can feed the top 4 conferences?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Or is this now going to sprinkle into the infield and people are going to be watching LIU against FDU? Which I'm okay with, too. I've always said I prefer a more regional approach. But are they now going to say, okay, because if you want that antitrust exemption or whatever they're looking at there?
Yeah, that's what they want.
Then are you going to, is everybody included? Are all 362 of your teams going to be included in that? Is Alabama State and Morehead State getting a piece of the television?
North Alabama University.
Because right, look at it this way, too. Being on television has intrinsic value. Aside from the money that goes into the coffers, it has intrinsic value. Your university gets to have a commercial on there almost for 2 hours of saying, here, the uniforms. Yep. All the athletes that might be thinking about going to your school are getting to see what sneakers you wear, what type of helmet you use, how are the coaches on the sidelines with these guys. So you're getting a good look at everything. I think, it's a great question. When they open that door, though, I want to see that somebody comes back in and says, are you sure?
Here's the thing.
Are you sure?
This is just like the NIL, right? They come up with this great idea. We need more money, and this is how we're going to do it because this is how the NFL did it. Well, the NFL only has a finite number of teams, whereas the NCAA has what 1,000 times the teams. If you have 30 teams in the NFL, you have 300 and something in the NCAA in Division One. There's no way that's sustainable. Just like the NIL is not sustainable, and I don't know when they're going to catch up with this.
You know what the law of unintended consequences?
We're watching it happen with NIL.
Exactly. But they have people in the room right now who would sit there and shout down the law of unintended consequence people. For example, you're in the room and me and you are sitting there in the room and going, wait a second. How does this all land? How does this all come about? What happens with this and that and the other thing? Those are the people that get shouted down in the room. We're marching towards progress here. Who cares if it works? We're marching towards progress.
Or
and basically, that's
we'll be out of here by the time the consequences catch up.
exactly excellence be darned. You know, who cares about that crazy excellence stuff when we're changing lives and saving lives and property? We're marching towards it. We're not going to turn around. It's basically what it is. Crazy. You got another one for me?
Yeah, sure. This time of year, this is when basketball, I believe, starts to heat up a little bit.
Yep.
You got the slow simmer going on. Division One's already practicing, right?
Correct. And they were in the summer.
I know, but that was a little bit more, allegedly more informal, right?
They're supposed to be under the same rules right now.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
until
still kind of
until it cooks off like
captain's
everybody
practices,
in October.
captain's
Yep.
practice.
They're supposed to be doing that. Well, the difference is with us is we have captain's practices, and you have coaches that look from the window up top in. They're not supposed to be doing that either. But now the NCAA has taken out the rule of, wow, you can't watch your players. They're letting them work in what they call small group. So you can bring in 3 or 4 players at a time,
Yep.
and the coaches can be in the gym, and they're allowed to work with them on individual improvement and stuff like that. But that's, once you open that door, just like you opened any door, then you got 5-on-5 and the coach is in there and they're practicing and ready to go. So some of them are allowed in Division I. At certain times, they're allowed to practice, even in the off season. Then they have these down times where they're not supposed to be doing it, and then they can cook up again. But right now, you hit it right. The word you used was simmer.
Yeah.
And everything is starting to simmer. And it depends what level you're on, but everybody that's going to get ready to play basketball this year is in the gym right now getting ready for the season, 100%.
Now, we see more and more in the college ranks injuries. We see more and more injuries in the pro ranks because the seasons are extended and things like that. Should there be a mandatory shutdown period after a season ends to say, just walk away for a bit, get your head right, get your body right, so you can come back and do this longer season?
If you look at it from an NBA perspective, if you were in the finals, your SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Tyrese Halliburton, who now has the injury that you were alluding to, now you're talking about you were in late June. You're still playing. And so now you're going to get a little bit of time there, maybe July, a little bit August, but then, you got to fire up and be ready to go in September. So that's the piece of it where I think it comes in on the individual as well, too. Do you have decompression built into your schedule? Or are you one of those guys kind of driven by fear who thinks everybody's working out, I got to be working out, I can't have downtime because somebody else is getting better while I'm down? That's part of the basketball mantra as well.
Okay.
Are you working every day? And I'm more in your line where I think decompression is really important. I think it's valuable. And I think especially if you're a professional, you would want to have that built into your schedule completely. Even as a college player now who's now earning $1 million of NIL or $750,000 of NIL money, you would want to bring that into your schedule as well, because essentially you're a pro now too, and your body and your schedule, your nutrition, your training mechanisms all have to align. They all have to be working together to make sure that you're doing it right. You got to be hitting the weight room. You got to be hitting the gym, for shots. You know, you also got to be hitting what I think, is the classroom a little bit to expand your mind and to grow as an individual. And then also you got to be spending time outside of that, which is really the preponderance of the amount of time with your teammates, getting to know them, getting to bond as a team, getting to discuss your dreams and aspirations, and then trying to put those into action. That's part of it as well, too. I think, there's a lot shaken there, but your question hits it right on the head. We've talked about it. Once you destroyed amateurism, well, start treating them like pros, because they are.
One of the things my boss told me was he understands that people on my tier are kind of people who are driven to work, right? You get to the managerial positions when you're driven to work. He said, I'm not going to approve any carryovers anymore for anything more than your contract states. There's going to be no more waivers. He says, take your vacation time. You need it.
We're allowed to carry it too, and I carry a bunch of it because we get a lot of it, but I don't also want to start.
He just wants us to use it, though.
I do
take
use
the
it.
time off.
No, I do use it. I do use it every single year. With the thanks of the Jackson family, my wife and my daughter, we've gone to the coast of Maine every single year, and all I do is sit on the beach. All I do is take it easy. I do get some phone calls. I do get some texts, some stuff that might be happening. But at the end of the day, if you don't decompress, you don't come back as sharp as you once were. It really, So this is something I do in my personal life. People can say this. Now, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I fast.
Okay.
I stop eating for 3 days straight, water only. For 3 days straight. And what happens is your body starts to eat some of the bad stuff in there. That's because after the energy is gone, after the food is gone, the body still eats, but it starts to eat itself a little bit. And it starts to eat the bad stuff that's in your body. Okay? But when I come off of a fast, my brain is flying. I'm completely cleaned out. I feel like really, really good. And I think there has to be a basketball fast as well, so that you can clean everything out, let it roll, and then come back and be cleaned out, ready to rock and roll. I really agree with your question 100%. Hit me with number 3, and then we're going to roll through some of these polls that I promised.
All right. What do you want to do with the first couple of weeks of school?
The first couple of weeks of school, I'm going to be coaching the golf team. Hopefully, we're going to get to a championship, get back to that level. But at that same moment, we have to start to prepare our guys to, make it through some of the bureaucracy that we have, physicals, signing off on gambling. This is something that everybody signs off on, and they all sign off on it too. There's a validation there. We're not going to gamble. That might be the most violated rule in college athletics right now on level Division 1, 2, and 3. There's a lot of gambling that goes on in college with these young kids. It's terrible. It's terrible. But they also, you talk about an old quarterback. This guy was a quarterback for Ohio State. He got $300,000 in the hole to a gambling enterprise back in the day.
When it was hard.
You know what comes next.
When it was hard.
Right. And you know what comes next.
Yeah. Knock on the door.
Knock on the door and says, hey, this Saturday you belong to us. It's awful. It's awful. But Pete, I thought Dr. Gingerich was fabulous. 3 great questions. I'm going to take you through a couple of these polls that we got. I got a couple here on the mid-major. We just talked about the mid-major level. We did some polls for you up on the Power 5 conference and what's happening up there. And we love St. John's and we like Houston again and we like Purdue. And we're very high on those 3 teams. There'll be some others that fall in, interested to see what happens with UConn. Villanova, new coach. Let's see what they can move and groove. But the Big East right now, they're power conferencing. Everybody's in powwows to try and make this thing the best they can. But we're going to start in the A10 right now. I alluded to this. I tipped this off last week, but I've gone with GW. The Revolutionaries, we're going to pick them number 1. I just like their team. They have great returning, and they have good additions that have been brought in through the NIL and the portal and also through recruiting. Chris Caputo, Westfield State's own, he's ready to rock and roll. You're going to be hearing that name next year, folks, at tournament time. VCU, it's just a great job. It's just a great job. They've had coaches in and out of there. Shaka Smart used to be the coach at VCU. There's a lot of elevation on that job, and some guys in the business call it a weekend at Bernie's job, meaning that you could have somebody that's almost dead coaching that team, and it's still going to be good. I'm going to go number 3, Dayton. The Flyers, they could finish 1-2, but they had a ton of talent last year. I think they're having a little problem in their locker room with some of the NIL stuff, and I'm not sure how well, the Catholic schools, Dayton, some of the others, St. Bonaventure, are adjusting to this. Dayton has more resource, but I'm going to put them 3rd. I like Loyola Chicago, too. I think their front line is maybe the best in the league. GW has a very good front line as well, but Loyola's got some players on that front line that are pretty good. I like them at number 4, and I think they have there's 1 or 2 guys here in this first 4 that might be NBA picks next year in the first or second round. You might have Castro from GW get drafted next year, and I think you might see the young man. I believe his name is Ruben. He plays at Loyola. And by the way, Sister Jean from Loyola just turned 106 years old. Happy birthday, Sister Jean. Keep it rolling. All right, so then we go in 5 spot. I'm going with my Bonnies. I like what Woj has done. I like our international flair. Coach Schmidt can coach shooters, and he's got some shooters now. They also have a little bit of a base. I'm excited about Massachusetts' own DeSante Bowen, who sat out last year for being injured. He was a transfer from Iowa. He's going to be a big help in the backcourt this year.
Hey,
Massachusetts' own.
If the NBA is embracing European players, why shouldn't some universities embrace them too?
100%. 100%. There's also, I'm going to do a little bit more investigation on this, but there's a little bit more also an ease of NIL that way. There's a little bit of an ease on the NIL that way, and I'll talk about that maybe next week. I got St. Louis at 6. They bring the big guy back. I think they're in a little bit of a transition, but as long as they have the big kid in the middle, they're going to be fine. George Mason, 7. Now, this is a drop for them because they finished 1-2 last year and had a great year, but they did have a lot of talent on that team that's going to be missing, and I think that they've revamped a little bit, and they do a great job there, no question about it, but I got them in 7. I got St. Joseph's in 8. They ran pretty close to the top, but again, this is a team, small Catholic school in Philadelphia, that's going to have to try and reload in the NIL with not as much money as everybody else, if you ask me. Richmond, number 9. I think Richmond is a team that could rise because they could probably get a pretty good NIL bag together, and they have a great basketball tradition at that school. But right now I have them penciled in at 9, and that's a little bit low for the type of program they are and where they should be. Number 10, we're going with the Dukes of Duquesne. They've got some stuff going on over there. The coach had been there and left. Now they've got a new coach, Drew Joyce. They're working the NIL. They're doing the best they can. They've also got some help there, and so I think they're going to be okay, but this is a tough league. This top tier of this league right here is really tough. All right, we're going to go URI at number 11. Arch Miller hasn't really been able to get this thing rolling. I'm not sure why, whether it's NIL, portal, I'm not sure what the whole thing is, but a lot of times when you get down, and there's a certain stink that gets on your program a little bit where people don't want to be associated with losing, and they need to get up in order to get some of that stuff moving, I think. And also, when you're winning, I think your ability to attract NIL money is better too. Okay, Davidson, Steph Curry's school. Bob McKillop, great coach, his son doing it right now. They haven't been out of 12th in a while. I think they'll be patient, but they really need to show some improvement because they were one of the best teams in the A-10 for a long, long time. LaSalle and Fordham, new coach at LaSalle, new coach at Fordham. They're going to have to do some NIL rigging and get something working over there, but those are tough jobs. All right, let's fly to the America East right now. We've got some local teams in there that we can really talk about. Vermont has been the big dog. The Catamounts have been the big dog in that league for a really, really long time. They got bounced out a little bit, but I see them on the return. Great coaching up there, and they really, really have one of the best home court environments in the entire league. Maine, number 2, I'm going to count them. They have Cooper Flagg's brother. which is going to be a good addition to them. But this has been traditionally a really difficult job, but the guys who have it now seem to be moving the ball forward and doing pretty well. I think Maine could ride the 2-spot. Bryant, the 3-spot coaching change. Okay, you had a coach go from here to there, and they brought in a new coach, Jamion Christian, who had been in Italy for a couple of years. He had been the coach at GW as well. We'll see. I don't know what their NIL bag looks like, but they're going to need to get it filled up and ready to roll because they were number 1 in the conference a little while ago. Albany, number 4, Dwayne Killings, a local product, Western Mass product, gonna do a great job there recruiting. They've done a pretty good job. They need to get a little bit tougher, a little bit tighter late game situation and get into that top echelon of the America East. UMass Lowell, they had been in the top of this league for a little bit of time, and now they slipped. They're sliding. Again, I think it's a difficult job. I don't know, like, who has a bag here and who doesn't have a bag. Does nobody have a bag? I don't think so. Does everybody have a bag? I don't think so. Does everybody have the same bag? I know they don't. Okay, so they're 5th. New Hampshire at 6th. I was concerned about this hire when they did it. The young man was at Bucknell, brought him over. I thought the young man who had been at Keene State would have been a nice little shot for them there, but they didn't do it. But now they're struggling at the bottom. We've got them at 6, but that's only because you have Binghamton, UMBC, and New Jersey Institute of Technology in your league. At the bottom of this league is not great. Binghamton, they've had a coach there for a while, haven't really been able to get elevated. UMBC and NJIT, tough jobs. UMBC was the first one to beat a 16th seed, but since that time they've fallen off. And NJIT, difficult job. All right, I got a few minutes left, so we're going to slide. I got Mac, Ivy, and Patriot. Not sure I get them all, but I'm going to take a shot at it. All right, let's go Ivy, Pete. We got the Princeton Tigers. They'll be back. Now, this number 2 team is going to be a surprise because they were down. Really down. We played them a couple of years ago, and their program, they finished at the bottom of the Ivy League. Really, really good job recruiting and resurrecting. I've got Dartmouth riding number 2. Number 3, Yale. Now, remember, Yale had a young man just drafted or was on the cusp of being drafted, John Poulakaitis, who's been invited to teams for their camp as well to get a look. I don't think he got drafted. I liked him, but he didn't get drafted. And then you had Danny Wolf, who wound up going to Michigan, but Danny Wolf was at Yale with Poulakaitis. Had they kept those guys, wow, that would have been some team. But Yale at number 3. Cornell, very good job up there they've been doing. It's a tough job. Cornell's not an easy Ivy League job. Maybe the toughest out of all of them. I got them in the 4 spot because they're being well coached, and they've got some good players right now. Brown, another Coach Martin is another Western Mass product, just like Dwayne Killings. He's coaching at Brown now for a number of years, been in the middle of the pack. They've gotten hit by NIL. They've gotten hit by people taking some of their players. And so if they had been able to keep their group congruent, I think they might have been able to rise a little bit faster. Harvard in the 6th spot. Keep an eye on Coach Amaker. Been around a while. I had heard some rumors about his retirement. You got Penn and Columbia in the bottom. Penn is now the new coach is Fran McCaffrey, who came from Iowa, was let go at Iowa and wound up getting the Penn job a couple of days later. It's his alma mater. I think they'll be able to do some good stuff there. They also have TJ Power signed there, who's a Worcester Academy player who's went to Duke originally, a little bit over his head, but I think he's going to be a terrific player in the Ivy League. And then Columbia sits in the number 8 spot. I don't even want to discuss Columbia right now. It's my hometown. I always wanted that job, and I tell you right now I wouldn't even walk on the street next to the place. Patriot League, American, they've been flying high, been doing a good job. Bucknell number 2. I got Colgate number 3. Coach Langle's had an amazing standard, but you can't stay high forever. Army at 4. BU at 5. Let's go Navy at 6. New coach down there. 7. Lafayette. 8. Loyola. Loyola's got to get rolling. 9, Lehigh, and Holy Cross 10. If that stays that way, there's going to be probably, I would say, some changes in the bottom of that league if everything stays finite there. All right? So let's slide over to the MAC. Great conference. I coached in it, love it, and we're going to stay with John Dunn, one of my former players, riding in. At Marist, we're going to count him as number 1. Quinnipiac, number 2. They had some significant losses. Xavier Lewis, their point guard. And they had some other players, significant losses, but I think they're going to be okay. Tommy Pecoro, keep them moving. Number 3, Merrimack. You've got a really good coach in Coach Gallo there. And the 2-3 zone, they're in a 2-3 zone situation, and it creates problems. Number 4, Iona. I'm interested to see what happens here. Dan Garriott, new coach. A little bit of a controversy with them getting rid of their old coach. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think they'll have some NIL money. Mount St. Mary's in the 5 spot. Pretty good spot for them. 6, Manhattan. Coach Gallagher holding on. Difficult job. Manhattan's in the Jaspers. They went to university. They became a university, and I'm not sure that it did much. Sacred Heart, number 7. This is a good league. This is a good league. 8, Fairfield. I'd like to see them rise a little bit. They did just hire a general manager, so maybe they can move. We'll see. Siena, Coach McNamara. These are 2 guys that were on Boeheim's staff, Adrian Autry at Syracuse and McNamara at Siena. Has had a little trouble getting it going. Started off on fire there with the first couple of games, but let's keep an eye on that one, Pete. Ryder, St. Peter's, Niagara, and Canisius. We put Niagara and Canisius 12 and 13 because we went to Bonas, and that's just where we put them. And that's Niagara and Canisius down at the bottom. Pete, that's going to be it for the week with the polls. We'll keep you posted on some other ones that go back and forth. Keep an eye on this thing that went down with Kawhi Leonard, folks. Okay, I'll tell you quickly before we jump off. I got a minute left, but Kawhi Leonard had a side hustle. Okay, he's making millions and millions of dollars in the NBA, but in order, some people say, to circumvent the salary cap, he wound up working at this company as a side hustle for about $18 million on the side. That company just went bankrupt, bellied up, having some problems. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but this exposed the fact that Steve Ballmer, who's the owner of the Clippers, and Kawhi had agreed to this. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I don't think it's going to be pretty good. I don't think it's going to be too good. And the other thing is how many of those deals are now available in the NBA? How many people are on side deals where they farmed out? Steve Ballmer invested $50 million in this company, and they gave X amount of it, I believe $18 million, back to Kawhi Leonard. I mean, come on, folks. Really? I mean, you're not making enough money? We'll see, Pete. Pete, great job with with President Gingerich today. What an interview. Love putting Bonas in that great light. And we got a special option next week for you. We'll get that to you as soon as we can. Pete, we're in the zone.